When was the last time you audited your accounts payable process to ensure you were using best practices for accounts payable and had incorporated the processes as they were actually being done? In this broadcast, we discuss why it is so important you do this, and then we're going to give you 10 questions that will help you structure your process review. Make sure you stick around until the end when we provide some insights on where to start your accounts payable process audit. Now, before I get to the 10 questions that will frame your accounts payable process audit and help you make sure it is complete, I want to address the issue of best practices versus how you're actually working, or reality versus best practices. So many of us know what best practices are, and we also know that we're not using them in our operations. When you do your accounts payable audit, if there's a best practice that you're not going to implement, then you need to make sure that what you document is what you are actually doing. So when you review the manual and you review your processes and you decide, for example, not to use P cards, well, then you don't want to have any P card processes in your manual. Because if you do put stuff in your manual that's best practice and not what you're actually doing, all you have is a work of fiction. It won't mean anything, number one. And number two, you won't be able to get the most out of your manual. So in this case, reality rules, okay? Of course, I'd like to suggest you use the best practice, but if you can't, that's where you go. All right. Hey guys, I'm Mary Schaefer, founder of 18P Now, your one-stop shop for cutting-edge business intelligence if you work in, manage, or have responsibility for the accounts payable and or payment function. So with that, let's dive right in and take a look at these questions. These are questions that you want to make sure are answered by the time you finish your audit, and it will help you progress through, and it'll give you an idea where to start. So question number one, and this is the easy part and probably the part you'll have the most fun with. Are there any parts of your policy and procedures manual that can be eliminated as that work is no longer done in the department? So, for example, if you were lucky enough that your tax department took over processing and issuing 1099s and you no longer have to do that, then you might want to take that out. I'm going to guess for most of you, there's not going to be much that you can eliminate, but just in case there is, let's do that. So that's step number one. Step number two, are there any changes you need to make right now to protect against new frauds? When there's a new fraud that comes out, you have to change your processes. This is one thing that can't wait. You can't say, well, we'll get to it, because by the time you get to it, the crooks will have drained your bank account several times. So any changes that you need to make to your processes to protect against new frauds. That's number two. Question number three, along the same lines, any changes you need to make to make sure that you're going to be able to do required regulatory reporting. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that we recommend in the fall, if you're doing 1099s, and 1042s for that matter, that you attend some sort of a training session, because the IRS regularly makes changes to what they require. So that's just one simple example. On just an alert, many of the states are now starting to have 1099 reporting requirements at the state level. So that's another thing that maybe you're not collecting information as you should to meet whatever your state requirements are. Okay, question number four. Did we incorporate changes that we made during the year into the manual? Sometimes you'll have to make a change, as we discussed, because there's a fraud, and so you make the change right away. Did you put that in your manual? Yes, everybody's doing it, but whatever it is, but did you update the manual? You want to make sure that those changes that were made are in the manual. Many times companies, they say they're going to do it. It's part of their practice. It's part of their established procedures, but somehow it doesn't get done. Question number five. Did we train everyone for all the changes we made? Not only the new fraud protection regimens, for example, but also if you got new technology, did we train? Is everybody trained? Okay. Question number six. Again, looking at your staff. Is everybody on staff using the new changes that you made? So you've made a change, you've trained them. Are they actually doing it? Okay. and you want to make sure they are, especially when it comes to fraud protection. Okay, sometimes staff is a little slow on the upkeep, or maybe they didn't understand when you did the training, and so now they're not doing it. And this is a way, by the way, if they're not doing whatever they're supposed to be doing, whatever new change you made, you might also find out that, well, they didn't understand the training. Okay, so that's you get a double benefit, if you will, from that. Question number 7. If you purchase new technology and then subsequently change your processes, has your manual been updated to include it? Many times this is something that gets lost in the shuffle. Okay, so make sure your new technology, whatever it is included in your written policies and procedures. Okay, now, are there any, question number 8? I'm up to, I guess I should be holding. I'm trying to do this right. Question number 8. Are there any process changes that you want to make? Maybe you went to a conference and you heard about something, or maybe you watched one of the AP Now videos and you heard about a best practice, and it's a process change you want to make, but you've never gotten around to it. This is the time, maybe when you're doing the review, to incorporate the new change so that you are using more best practices, okay? And by the way, you can ask your staff, do they have any suggestions? Because a lot of time they have really good suggestions. Question number 9, okay, and this is important. Have you monitored at some point during the year work that's being done by your staff to make sure they're doing it properly and they're doing it the way it says they are in the manual? Don't assume that everybody's doing it. You need to periodically check. You want to make sure those shortcuts have not found their way into your system. And if they have found their way, if somebody is using a shortcut, well, you want to evaluate it, because if it's a really good shortcut, then maybe everybody should start using it. And question number 10, okay, does the manual reflect the work being done in the department? This goes back to the discussion we had at the very beginning. Yes, it would be nice if you were using all best practices, but don't beat yourself up. Most companies, in fact, I've yet to find one company that's using all the best practices that I recommend. It's easy for me. I just have to talk about it. I don't have to do it. So probably you're not using all of them. And your manual should reflect what's being done, not what you think should be doing done. All right. Before we share some insights on where to start, I'd like to share with you that we have over 300 videos in our library with new accounts payable and payment issues being addressed every Tuesday and Thursday, and we're doing some shorts now on other days, so we're updating almost every day. Occasionally on Saturdays, we also have some Wordle fun. So check out our library after you finish watching this one, okay? You're wondering where to start, okay? I've given you all these questions. You realize you have not reviewed your accounts payable process in maybe years. While not every accounts payable team handles the myriads of tasks, there's probably over 30 of them that can fall under the accounts payable umbrella. One thing that everybody does, every accounts payable department does, is handle processes invoices. As much as you possibly can, this is one area where accounts payable best practices should be employed as much as possible. Wonder what the best practice invoice handling processes look like? We recently did a short 4-minute video on that topic, which you can watch right now using the link that will appear momentarily on your YouTube screen and is in the show notes below. This session is part of our AP Best Practice playlist. As always, we appreciate your thumbs up, your comments, your shares, and your subscribes. Good luck.